challenging Donald Trump.
He's making promises he has no intention of keeping.
How the other candidates are trying to stop his momentum. Act of terror, nuns from the Missionaries of Charity gunned down overseas. Critical issues. Conservatives at CPAC discuss the effect of abortion. And the power of confession, how the Pope sets an example for Catholics around the world. On EWTN News Nightly for Friday, March 4th, 2016.
I've never seen a successful person who wasn't flexible.
There's a difference between flexibility and telling people whatever you think you need to say to get them to do what you want them to do.
Candidates question Donald Trump's campaign promises and commitment to Republican values. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Candidates Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio seemed to join forces last night attacking the Republican frontrunner with a blistering rhetoric at the debate in Detroit.
I have a policy question for you, sir.
Let's see if he answers it.
I will. Don't worry about it, Marco. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, little Marco. I will.
All right, well, let's hear Big Don. Donald.
Don't worry about it, Don't worry about it, little Marco.
In mere minutes, Thursday night's Republican debate turned personal and stayed that way.
Count to 10, Donald. Count to 10.
Three candidates desperate to stop frontrunner Donald Trump. Florida Senator Marco Rubio on full attack, trying to stay alive until March 15th's primary in home state Florida.
And he's asking us to make him the president of the United States of America.
I know
This is not a game.
Ohio Governor John Cusack continuing to believe his low-volume pitch will get him through his own must-win March 15th contest in Ohio.
I have never tried to go and get into these kind of scrums that we're seeing here on the stage, and people say everywhere I go, you seem to be the adult on the stage.
Time running out for Trump's challengers, all attacking in an effort to stop his momentum, targeting his political donations.
Donald Trump has written checks to Hillary Clinton not once, not twice, not 3 times, 10 times. Donald Trump in 2008 wrote 4 checks to elect Hillary Clinton as president.
His business practices.
You ever heard of Trump steaks? You ever heard of Trump?
You know what? You know what?
All
Take
of
a
these
look at Trump
companies that
steaks.
he's ruined.
And his character.
He has spent a career of convincing Americans that he's something that he's not in exchange for their money. Now he's trying to do the same in exchange for their country.
Despite the bickering, all the candidates pledged to support the eventual Republican nominee. The next round of voting takes place tomorrow. In Kansas and Louisiana, Republicans will also caucus in Kentucky and Maine, and Democrats will caucus in Nebraska. We'll take a closer look at the road to the White House in a moment with a report from the Conservative Political Action Convention. Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. Detectives say they're investigating a knife reportedly found at O.J. Simpson's former home. The knife in question was reportedly found by a construction worker who gave it to a police officer years ago. The weapon used to kill his ex-wife and her friend has been a mystery for decades.
I was really surprised. I would think that an LAPD officer, if this story is accurate as we're being told, would know that anytime you come into contact with evidence, that you should and shall submit that to investigators.
Simpson was acquitted of murder charges, but a civil court jury found him liable for the killings and awarded millions of dollars in damages to the victims' families. Simpson is currently behind bars for an unrelated case. A team of gunmen in Yemen storm a retirement home run by Mother Teresa's nuns, killing more than a dozen people. Wyatt Goolsby joins us with the details.
Lauren, 4 of the 16 dead are sisters with the Missionaries of Charity. A spokeswoman for the order says they are absolutely stunned. They're asking Catholics across the world for prayers.
This is a home for the elderly, run by the Missionaries of Charity. Authorities say a team of gunmen infiltrated the facility, then went on a killing spree. 2 men surrounded the building, while 4 others pretended to be visiting family. The killers then moved room to room, handcuffing the victims before shooting them in the head. A nun survived by hiding inside a fridge. After the gunmen brutally murdered 16 people, they got away.
It's not necessarily the members of those communities that are being targeted. The message is a broader message to the Christian identity in the Middle East.
Kirsten Evans runs In Defense of Christians, a group aimed at protecting Christians in the Middle East. Evans says religious persecution is all too common in that part of the world.
The Christian minority communities are some of the largest minority communities in the Middle East, and they are repeatedly and often used as scapegoats in larger moments of conflict.
Evans says a civil war has divided Yemen, leaving violent extremists to run rampant. Christians in the country are in danger simply because of their faith.
The Missionaries of Charity say the sisters were planning on coming back to India from Yemen, but they chose to stay and serve the people. In a statement to Asia News, the Archbishop of Mumbai says the nuns' death have plunged the Church of India and Asia into deep sadness. Lauren?
Of course, how couldn't it? Thank you, Wyatt. There's more concern tonight about North Korea. Leader Kim Jong-un says the country's nuclear warheads need to be ready to strike at any time. North Korea is upset about a new round of UN Security Council sanctions, which include mandatory inspections of cargo leaving and entering the country. The tension will soon get worse when the U.S. and South Korea start military drills in a few days. Water crews in Flint, Michigan are starting to dig up old lead pipes to help fix the city's contamination crisis. First to be fixed are homes in neighborhoods with the highest number of children or seniors. A Michigan representative led a delegation today of 25 members of Congress to meet with residents. Republican frontrunner Donald Trump has backed out of a national gathering of conservatives. He was supposed to give a keynote address at CPAC tomorrow. EWTN's Jason Calvi is there. Jason, did the news ricochet throughout the convention?
Yeah, Lauren, big surprise here at CPAC, as this was not expected. He was supposed to be here tomorrow, and I was speaking to one person in line, and they told me they came here to CPAC just to hear Donald Trump. The organizers say they're very disappointed, but it sends a clear message to conservatives.
What topics did the audience hear about today, Jason?
Lots of different topics. Earlier we heard about the legacy of Ronald Reagan, and there was also a conversation about the pro-life issue. Here, take a listen.
Gianna Jessen could have been just a statistic.
I survived an abortion, and you can't just do that by yourself. You need Jesus.
She's sharing her pro-life story at the Conservative Political Action Conference. Jessen says watching the presidential campaign is like her Super Bowl. She says she can be an example to Donald Trump, who has praised the work of Planned Parenthood.
As he comes across someone like me, who can say, hey, and by the way, this is what Planned Parenthood's about, I think he will come to some very different conclusions.
And Trump does promise to defund Planned Parenthood.
All of the Republican candidates have said they will defund Planned Parenthood as long as they're committing abortions, and they will sign the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act.
That would ban abortions after 20 weeks. But some pro-lifers are also looking past politics.
So the solution is not in politics, but we need to be involved in the political realm to try and make sure that good laws are enacted. At the same time, families need to be very engaged to watch over their children, to raise them, to love the Ten Commandments.
And here, that next generation of leaders are learning from Jessen's story.
The millennials are just hyper attuned to the value of life. I think that's so beautiful. So I'm very happy.
So where does this pro-life issue fit in a place like CPAC? Well, Ronald Reagan used the image of a stool to describe the three legs of the conservative movement: the social, moral issues, the economy, and defense. Lauren?
Jason Calvi reporting from CPAC. Jason, thank you. Ohio Governor John Cusack also spoke at CPAC. He laid out his immediate action items if elected.
In the first 100 days, I'm going to give them a plan to freeze federal regulations, reduce taxes on businesses and individuals. We're going to have a plan to balance the budget. We're going to fix Social Security. We're going to fix the border. We're going to have immigration taken care of. I'm going to restore our relations with our allies. And that's what we're going to do in the first 100 days. So buy a seatbelt.
Kasich said his path to the nomination is a brokered convention. That's when delegate votes don't add up to 50% and there's no clear winner. Delegates keep voting until there's a majority and a nominee is crowned. Bob Cusack is the editor-in-chief of The Hill, joins us for our Friday political panel. Hello.
Hey, Lauren, how are you?
Good. What do you think about that Kasich news?
Well, I think it's unlikely, but they have to have some type of hope. And the one thing about Donald Trump, you hear a lot about brokered conventions, but if he continues on his streak of winning most states, winning 2 of 3 states, he's going to win this thing. There's going to be no brokered convention. So the momentum somehow, some way needs to change. Kasich needs to win his home state of Ohio. Rubio needs to win his home state of Florida. We'll see if that happens.
So last night, the gloves were off as the Republican candidates duked it out at a Fox debate.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me as if there were no clear winners there when everybody is fighting in a melee.
Yeah, and I think that, or maybe the winner was Hillary Clinton, because at times that debate was pretty ugly. And also, I think the fact that there weren't many clear winners it means Donald Trump was the winner, because he just continues to be the front runner. Rubio needed a big night. He did not get it, in my estimation. So I think we're still on the same path that we were before, and that's Donald Trump, as he has been the last 7 months, being the front runner.
Donald Trump pulled out of CPAC. He was supposed to speak there tomorrow at 8:30, and CPAC was, of course, upset.
Yes.
What does that mean? This is your big conservative movement, and he's saying, I'm not coming.
Well, I don't think he likes to get booed, and there was a high chance I think he was going to get booed. He knew that. He thinks, listen, I've worked very hard to get where I am. I don't want to risk it. It's risky going into CPAC. Of course, some people say, well, that would be leadership if you went in. So I think he just wanted to avoid those bad headlines of being booed at CPAC, because there are a lot of people at CPAC that don't want Trump to be the nominee.
I walked in to CPAC yesterday, and there were people with anti-Trump signs, and there was a man who said, we're staging a walkout. So maybe that was part of it.
I think so, and I think that, there are it's bad headlines to skip such an influential conference, but at the same time, I think it would have been worse had he given a speech. It could have been quite a debacle, and it might be the smart political move here.
Someone said that there are no labels anymore. Conservative doesn't mean anything, liberal doesn't mean anything, or Democrat doesn't mean anything. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think also Donald Trump has any label. Some people say he's a centrist. Some people say, well, he used to be a Democrat, now he's a Republican. Some say he is a conservative. Some people say he's a Tea Party guy. I think he has rewritten the playbook here, but he is not fitting into any type of mold. And maybe that's the reason why, at least in this cycle, he's been successful.
Bob Cusack, editor of The Hill, thank you very much.
Thanks, Lauren.
Coming up, the man behind Best Picture Spotlight. We talked to the editor who spearheaded the investigation into the Catholic Church. And 24 Hours for the Lord. The Pope makes a new push for reconciliation. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Lauren Ashburn. During this year of mercy, a new push for reconciliation from the Vatican. Mary Shovlain tells us how the Pope is leading by example.
Lauren, the Holy Father kicked off the 24 Hours for the Lord initiative this evening here in the Vatican. He not only encouraged all of us to go to confession, he led by example by going to confession himself and then staying to hear the confession of many penitents here in St. Peter's Basilica. During his homily, he mentioned that we can all be blinded to the needs of others through sin. When he talked to his brother priests addressing them, he said, may anyone who approaches the confessional find a father, and may anyone who approaches the confessional find the Father who forgives sins. So as part of this initiative, churches around Rome will remain open, some through the night, and many churches around the world will offer extended hours so that priests may hear the confession of anyone needing to approach the sacrament. Some people ask, what's the best way to prepare for confession? We have to remember Pope Francis published a book earlier this year. The name of God is mercy. And he said, we have to be able to recognize that we are sinners so that we will be amazed by God when he forgives us of our sins. Lauren?
Important at this time of Lent. Mary Shovlain, our producer in Rome. Mary, thank you. A California inmate receives a surprise letter from the Pope. Carlos Vasquez Jr. is serving an 11-year sentence for involuntary manslaughter. He wrote to the Pope asking for forgiveness. To his surprise, Pope Francis wrote back. He told Vasquez he was praying for him. Vasquez says the letter helped him regain his will to live. Baltimore leaders from Catholic, Jewish, Muslim, and Protestant churches traveled to Rome this week to meet with the Pope. On the agenda, the highly publicized death of Freddie Gray. Gray died last spring in Baltimore after he was taken into police custody, causing riots in the city. Archbishop William Lori led the group. The group says it's trying to strengthen the bonds of friendship that already unite them. After a series of meetings in the last year, they asked for the Pope's blessing on their commitment to help the people of Baltimore. This week, Spotlight took home the Best Oscar for Best Picture. The drama follows the Boston Globe's coverage of the church sex abuse crisis in 2002. I spoke to the man who spearheaded the real-life investigation. Joining us now is Marty Barron. He's the executive editor of the Washington Post, former editor of the Boston Globe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
After this win, this spotlight win, congratulations, by the
Thank
way,
you.
the Vatican newspaper, L'Osservatore Romano, called it courageous. There was a private screening at the Vatican. The Vatican radio praised it. Were you surprised by Catholic reaction to this film?
A bit. I didn't quite know what to expect from the Vatican. I would hope that that it would have an impact on the Vatican and on the Church.
There were critics. Christopher White, who's with Catholic Voices USA, actually wrote in an op-ed, "What is missing is the story of what happened in the Church after Boston in the film." Do you agree with that?
Well, it's a 2-hour movie. You can't put everything in a 2-hour movie. The movie that they wanted to make was the story of how this all came to light, what the investigation was at the Boston Globe. You know, obviously the church did implement reforms. I think we can have a significant debate on how energetically those reforms have been enforced from diocese to diocese, what still needs to be done in the church itself, particularly with regard to the accountability of bishops. So I think it's a bit of a mixed story there.
Did you have a sense of accomplishment from the expose in the Boston Globe?
Oh, no question. We saw immediate impact from the work that we did, and that impact only became magnified over the next year and a half or 2 years in which we did more and more stories. So I think the reason that the church continues to grapple with this issue is largely because of the work that was done by the Globe. Of course, there had been other work done by others, but what really cracked this open was the work that was done by the Globe.
Last question. Did your faith at all impact this?
No, actually it did not. I approached this as a news person. I did not expect to be confronted with this story when I arrived at the Boston Globe. I didn't.
Wasn't this the
people
first
have asked
day
me.
that
Yes, it
this
was
happened?
the first day, and people have asked me, well, why did you, quote, go after the Catholic Church? And I've heard from many Catholics about how grateful they are that we did do that. And there were statements just the other day from the Cardinal in Boston about how this, in fact, helped the church deal with criminal and sinful acts that took place within the church. So I think that is a fact. It did help the church deal with that. I realize it was deeply uncomfortable. It had nothing to do with my religion or the religion that was being investigated. It only had to do with a journalistic obligation to pursue wrongdoing when it finds it.
Marty Barron, Pulitzer Prize winner for the Boston Globe expose and executive editor of the Washington Post. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Up next, keeping Mass holy and reverent, how Catholics wrestle with modern liturgical music. And my exclusive interview with the Speaker of the House, what Paul Ryan told me about the role of his faith in politics. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Is Catholic music in a crisis? Critics have said since Vatican II, music sung in church is lacking rich liturgical history. Addie Mena is the D.C. correspondent for Catholic News Agency and a classically trained violinist. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you so much.
Well, explain to me what is happening with music in the church right now. What's the problem?
So there's a tension between the idea of Vatican II opening up a door to a rich number of traditions and history for the church to draw from, both from our own history, but from various cultural traditions and different liturgical traditions. Some orders have their own musical history. But there's a question between sort of keeping what we've had in the past and also moving forward.
So maybe this will help our viewers. Let's listen to what you say is modern but liturgically appropriate music. It's O Sacrum Convivium, and it's sung by the Scola Choir from the Dominican House of Studies. It was composed by a millennial.
Yes.
All right,
yes.
let's take a listen to this. Yeah. Is that what we're talking about? Is that the kind of music that people who want to see now?
It's elements of it. I think what's really interesting about this piece is that it blends some very modern elements, these crunchy, dissonant chords, with inspiration that's very clearly taken from the chant tradition. It very clearly sounds like church music.
Okay, well, I like On Eagle's Wings. I mean, I'm very, I'm sort of from the 70s and 80s, and I like that kind of music. Are critics saying that kind of music isn't something that should be played?
So first off, something in the piece that I worked on that one of the directors said is that all worthy music should be played in the church. But there's also a question of balancing it with elements that have sort of been forgotten in the past 40 years.
Like Gregorian chant?
Like Gregorian chant, like prayers that used to be sung for thousands of years up until 40 years ago, that because they're not required, we sometimes forget about now.
For example?
So offertory chants, or chants that were traditionally done right before the beginning of Mass, are prayers that prepare us for the Mass, and are important and very beautiful parts that we can still incorporate into the Mass along with other worthy music.
Addie, Mena, this was a fascinating story. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Earlier this week, I sat down with the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. Tonight, we bring you the last part of his interview. It's on the most important topic, faith. Does your Catholic faith impact that desire to teach, to reach out to young children?
It does. My Catholic faith, it does inform me to teach. My kids go to Catholic school. We're very involved in our parish community. It's part of who we are. I went to Catholic school myself. So it's a big part of our community, and yes, it does. I think we are expected not to just be isolated in our lives. We are expected, whether you're in public life or not, but to help and minister and to help others. And so, yeah, I think that's right. And I'm just excited to see young people come out for the pro-life cause.
How do you pray at work?
I pray every day. I pray all the time. I opened the House chamber today with a prayer. Just so you know, we do that. Right above the rostrum, above my head, if you see the Speaker of the House, you see that big flag, it says, "In God We Trust." And we open every day here in Congress with a prayer. We open our meetings in the House Republican Conference with a prayer. When we have a tragedy or something like that, we have a moment of silence and a prayer right here in Congress. So this is something we do on a daily basis, not only personally, but this is something we do every day.
The issue in the media is always, we say thoughts and prayers be with you, thoughts and prayers. And
I talked about this the other day.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, thoughts and prayers are important. So there are some in the media that are suggesting that this is a blow-off, that this is an insincere thing. Far from it. Asking for people to pray and sending your prayers to people is very, very important. And so for those in the secular left media who suggest that this is somehow something wrong to say, they just misunderstand the entire concept.
Because I think prayer is something that's never talked about, and I think that if there were a lot of people in the left media would say, let's never talk about prayer and let's not have it in schools and in church.
If you come into my congressional office, and any day for the last number of years, you will see a piece of wood carved in it that says pray, sitting on my desk. So this is something that we do, and it's part of our daily life here as public officials.
Now, your family. One thing, I was riding in the car, I was riding down, I was hearing that you were being considered for speaker, and they said, well, he's going to put something in there that says he wants to spend time with his family. I, as a working mother, have that as something that is very important to me. How'd that work out?
It's worked out fine. I'm sticking to my schedule.
And what is that schedule?
I'm home in Wisconsin on weekends. So you have to remember, most speakers of the House are older people who are empty nesters. I'm a younger person with an 11, 12, and 14-year-old at home. I go home to Janesville, Wisconsin, where I live, and I'm with my family. We go to Mass, we go to volleyball and basketball and whatever, and I meet with my constituents. And so that's the routine I've had and have been able to keep in Congress. And that was the routine I was going to keep, and I am keeping if I became Speaker of the House.
Well, you can watch more of his interview online at EWTN.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook. For the EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Lauren Ashburn. Good night, and God bless.